Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Sensation Nation. Another week, another amazing topic, another amazing guest. One of the topics that I've been wanting to talk about for a long, long time, because someone like myself who comes from very humble beginnings, very fortunate to be where I am today, but it did not come easily. It came from a lot of mistakes, especially financially, monetarily, a lot of things learned the hard way. And it's kind of like, man, I wish I would have known then what I know now. But at the end of the day, now that I am where I am today, I get an opportunity to try to help educate other folks so they can avoid the pitfalls. So I wanted to bring on the subject today to talk about being financially sound. I know that sounds like it's an easy thing to do, but it's not quite the way we think it might be. I think it was Tupac. Tupac said he's always trying to figure out how to make $1 out of 15 cents. And that sounds cool. And I will tell you right now, it's not easy. It can be hard at times. So my good friend who we ran in the same circles together in the great state of Florida, Marcus Smith. I'm going to bring him on in a second, but Marcus Smith, as you're going to see when he starts to talk, he has had a very successful career just as a person, and professionally and personally. He's done a lot of things. He was prior enlisted in the Navy, ended up commissioning in the Air Force, served 30 years or so in the military as a whole, and now he is running for city council in the city council in Melbourne, Florida, District 1. Yeah. When I'm like, man, he's what can't he do? But all in all, though, I wanted to bring him on because one of the things that I watched him do from afar is educate other people on various things, various topics. But one thing that I know for sure that he did while he was in command was he actually went above and beyond, and he actually gave financial management classes to the folks that he was in charge of. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Marcus Smith. How you doing today?
Hey, what's going on, Sims, man? Thank you for having me. And what a great intro, man. I really, really, truly appreciate being with you. And I'm extremely proud to spend this time with you. You're right. We've known each other now for a number of years. And congratulations on your success to you and your family. And let's go ahead and get into this topic, man, on being financially sound.
Absolutely. So I kind of gave a quick rundown of your history, and that's not doing you much justice, I'm sure. But can you kind of give us just a little bit about your background, like your current roles and responsibilities, just so the audience can get familiar with who you are?
Yes. So thank you. I love the point that you made about humble beginnings, because, you know, that typically is the story for a lot of us Black folks, right? But the question I have is, at some point, how do we change the narrative? But I would imagine, like right now, you and I, even what we're doing right now, we're starting to shift and change that narrative. And as you talk about some of the guests you've had on the show, you change that narrative. But a little bit about myself. Originally from Atlanta, Georgia. I see you got the Atlanta Falcons and Georgia Bulldogs behind.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
a Georgia Tech guy. I graduated from Georgia Tech, but I grew up right there in Decatur. And so you can avoid UGA and Herschel Walker and Vince Dooley and Lynn Kane. You know, all those were the good old days in the SEC in Atlanta. So, but originally from Atlanta, Georgia, graduated from Georgia Tech. Electrical engineering is my degree. I also have an MBA from Webster University. Got that while I was on active duty. I joined the military in the Navy in 1991. Spent about 4 or 5 years in the Navy, and I was a maintenance guy. So I learned how to do maintenance on F-18s. I know you was a Marine, right? So we could have been in school together. I was up at Milton Naval Air Station for my tech school, and I really enjoyed that. And I'll tell you, one of the things that really sort of shifted for me early on in life, because where I grew up, you know, there was a lot of things that was not cool, right? You know, parents may have middle-class jobs, but they had no money to show for it, right? And so a lot of times young folks have made decisions. Just like I'm watching a BMF documentary now, not the documentary, but the show, and you keep hearing them say, I had to do what I had to do to go get this money. You know, baby got to eat. You know, I got tired of being broke. I got tired of struggling, right? So that just tells you right there that how we think about money, how we think about being financially sound, it has an impact on our decisions. It has an impact on your parents' decisions, has an impact on our decisions. It's going to have an impact on your kids' decisions. So, you know, and as I retired from the military, but I've had a tax business now for about 15 years. And let me tell you a little bit about that. When I graduated from college, and even as a first lieutenant, you know, we're allowed to have part-time jobs. And I was looking for a job, something that would interest me. And I ended up getting a part-time job at H&R Block. So I would go be an acquisition officer during the day, working on all these IT projects using my engineering degree. And then at night, I would go and I would be a tax preparer at H&R Block. And I really just loved it. I really just fell in love with helping people and preparing taxes and helping people with that type of financial information. But then I also realized something. I realized from that experience, I worked for H&R Block for about 5 years. I realized from that experience that people really did not understand how money worked, right? They're coming in, filing the tax. It was a transaction for them. Maybe they had 401ks, maybe they had, 403bs and all of these things, but they really didn't understand how this stuff worked. Never understood life insurance, right? I'm also involved in life insurance, health insurance. So I've had a wealth of experience because the licenses that I have, in addition to being a registered tax preparer, I also have my life and health license and securities license, 6063. And I'm studying now for another test that's going to allow me to become a registered investment advisor. But we're not going to talk about any specifics today, but I love to talk about financial literacy as I have on my shirt here, because financial literacy pays off. And a lot of times people feel like they're lost in the sauce because they think they need to have some detailed information. I went out for a run this morning, ran into a neighbor, and we just talked a little bit about, she's helping me with my campaign and things like that. And she's like, can you help me do such and such? And just in that small amount of time, the information we talked about, nothing specific, but just little nuggets of information can really help people to become more financially sound, right? So I think that's why we're here. And you don't have to talk details. You don't have to be overwhelmed. You don't have to be scared of this information. But I'll tell you this, just like I said before, it's very, very important that we start to learn what we don't know, right? You kind of have these three parts, right? We know what we know. We think we know what we really don't know, and then we don't know what we don't know. That piece of we don't know what we don't know, we really have to start to chip away at that and increase what we know, right? Because no one's going to just knock on your door, just get this information to you. So if you really want to be more financially sound, if you really want to, people use the term generational wealth, that may be a goal too big. But if you really want to increase your quality of life, if you really want to have more money at the end of the month, if you really want to have more savings, then it behooves us to learn the information that we don't know and then just become a little bit better than we were yesterday. So I'm here prepared to talk about it, man. And, let's get started.
I love it. You're killing it already. You make me want to take my $1 and just put it away right now and try to invest it in something. So you got the shirt right there that says proud personal finance teacher. And that is a perfect segue to my next question, which is kind of really more of a rhetorical question, but a simple one at the same time. Would you consider yourself to be a financial expert? And if so, how did you get there?
Yeah. Expert. I would use that term loosely. I'm very knowledgeable, and I would say expert, and especially relative to what maybe general population knows. And you talked about it while I was in command, because one of the things that happened while I was in command and deployed, there was a shift from the high 3 retirement system to the new blended retirement system, and young folks was having to make that decision. And if you had I think if it was less than 12 years of service, you could actually opt into the blended retirement system. And I was really just trying to help folks understand what that really meant, what that really looks like. So I would say, yes, I'm a financial expert, but I'll caveat it to say I still have a lot to learn, and I'm hungry to learn more. This is something that's biblical. The more I learn, the more I realize what I don't know. And the more I realize that I need to help people where they are in order to increase their knowledge, because I'm not the one that's going to try to talk over people's head. I don't want people to feel like, I don't understand this. So if I go talk to this guy, he's going to just make me feel, like I don't know anything or like idiot. No, that's the first thing is we have to admit, again, what we don't know, or we have to admit that I want to know more about how to invest. I want to know more about why life insurance is important, right? Or how life insurance can actually help be a part of my being financially sound plan for me and my family, right? So once you admit to that, then you realize that there's more knowledge to be gained. So I'm on this journey, man. It's a marathon. I'm here to learn more. So if you ask me if I'm a financial expert now, I would say, yeah, I know information. I read a lot of books on it, but there's still so much that I'm hungry to learn and that I want to know. So
I love it. I love it. As you mentioned, to a certain extent, we don't know what we don't know, but at the same time, we've got to be willing to learn. And the more we learn, the more we realize we don't know some things and you want to know more about it. So it's like a self-licking ice cream cone. And you just got to keep learning, keep reading, and be willing to receive that information. But on the flip side of that, as you mentioned, the way that you deliver things to people, you have to do it delicately and knowing your audience, right? And some people could get discouraged very easily and feel behind. It's no different if you were talking about physical fitness or mental health or financial wealth. Just like the book behind me, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
That's it. I'm looking at that book behind me.
Exactly. I read that book years ago and it changed my mentality. But at first, when I read it, I was like, man, I have messed up so much in life and I'm so behind. I can't catch up. I jacked this all up. But that's not true, right? And so this is our opportunity right now, as you mentioned, as we, sometimes spoon feed, sometimes we, dump it in. With this question, for the folks that are listening right now and they're trying to figure out how to make $1 out of 15 cents, what is one of the most common pitfalls to avoid when it comes to staying out of financial trouble?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and there's so many things, and I'll just point out three things that happened in my own life and that I see, pretty regularly. One is getting in debt, right? Having too much debt and not really managing your debt, and then if you have too much debt, that means that you may have bad credit. You have a bad credit score. And then once you build that hill, it's hard to overcome. It's not impossible. As a matter of fact, it's probably easier than you imagine to, rebuild your credit score. And then you just have to do the snowball, effect in order to pay your debts off. And then you just start to pay your debts off and then try not to get into debt anymore or manage it better, right? So that's one, just too much debt and then bad credit scores, right? Another one that I would say is spending too much money and not really saving, just not saving in general, right? So you're out eating too much, you're buying clothes, you're buying things, and then when you look up at the end of the month, you wish you had more savings, but your money just went through your fingers, money just went through your hands. And then the third one, which is really important, and you kind of, it's funny because you keep alluding to it, right? How do you make $1 out of 15 cents? I mean, how do you get $1 out of 15 cents? How would you answer that question?
For me, you have to take that money and be willing to make a sacrifice, right? You got 15 cents, and instead of saying, well, I see this thing I want, it costs 14 cents. That'll leave me a penny. But you have to ask yourself, do you really need it? Or do you really want it? Yeah. Because that one thing that you want for 14 cents, well, if you take that 14 cents and invest it and make money while you're sleeping, then maybe you can buy several of those things that you want for 14 cents.
That's it right there, investing, right? And that's really the point. And it's so funny, a lot of times when I'm working on a workshop now of what the Bible says about money. And I've been sort of gathering knowledge. I got a lot of scriptures because the Bible says a lot about money. And it uses the term stewardship a lot throughout the Bible, right? And Jesus had one of the parables, which is the parable of the talents, right? You had the three individuals, the master gave them 1 talent, 2 talents and 5 talents, right? They started off with. Do you remember that you remember that parable?
I do.
Yeah. And so with that, number one, they all received their original lot based on the original knowledge that they have, right? So you got this 5, 2, and 1, right? So that means that the guy on 5 already was more knowledgeable. And the individual 1, the knowledge was not there. They didn't know anything. But then by the time the master returned, the 5 had doubled to 10, the 2 had doubled to 4. And what did the individual with the 1 who already was struggling and with the least amount of knowledge, he buried that 1 talent and told the master, well, I knew you was a wise man. And so I'm just giving you the talent back. But I think the reason why that parable is told is because just like to make $1 out of 15 cents, that 1 also could have been invested. Don't be fearful. Don't let your fears drive you from not giving something a try. I mean, he could have talked to his brothers right there, and say, hey, how can you help me? All I got is 1, and all I got is 15 cents. So I'm going to take this 15 cents and my 15 becomes 30 cents. My 30 cents becomes 60. And then slowly over time. And that's part of the issue. A lot of times people want it too fast. Right. And they don't, the knowledge is not there. So you have to sort of start along the path and chip away at it. And then your 15 cent eventually will grow and become $1. So that's how you get $1.15. And your timeline may not be the same as another person's timeline, but that's not your concern. Worry about your lot. Worry about your situation, and you deal with your life the best way you can. But if you are patient and faithful, your 15 cent can grow to become $1.
I love it. Y'all watch out. Mics are being dropped. I'm about to get hit in the head. I'm about to get hit in the head with a mic. Mics are being dropped. So I mean, this is good for me. This is good because iron sharpens iron, right? You never stop learning. You have to be willing to learn, even if you think that you're where you need to be. And we're talking about being financially sound. We can think that we're as sound as we can be until you find someone who is more sound, and you learn from that person. The problem that you highlighted is the wanting to be like the Joneses. The grass is greener on the other side. And I actually find it to be probably more challenging and more difficult today because of social media, because social media makes everything look wonderful, right? We're seeing all these people. I get it all the time. People are just like, dude, do you work? And I'm like traveling and I'm trying to do that YOLO thing. Is like, you only live once, right? And that's a perfect segue to the next question. So how does one balance? Because to me, I'm like, I love spending money, but I like saving money when I spend money. But at the same time, there's that whole work hard, play harder mentality, because I can go and kick butt at work knowing that I got a vacation coming or being recharged fresh off of a vacation. So as a person who's trying to figure out that balance, how does someone balance the work hard, play hard mentality with being a smart investor and saving money? How does someone balance those two?
Yeah, really, really good question. And I would say this: the first thing is you got to have a plan. And when it comes to money and finances, a lot of times in our culture and communities, we've tried to do it by ourselves, right? And there's not necessarily nothing wrong with that, but you have to have a plan, right? You talk about the book Behind Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? And the dad who everybody thought was the rich dad, really he had very limited knowledge, right? And there was the other dad who really gave the young man the knowledge and the sense that he ended up having for the rest of his life. So you have to have a plan, and then you have to have goals. And I would say that a lot of times people get afraid of goals. And in reality, you can have mental goals. It would definitely be nice to have a vision board and have things written down. In particular, if you got a wife, if you got a family, bring your kids involved, get your kids involved, and have goals, so that way you're balancing. Because there's nothing wrong. You make money, and there's nothing wrong with having fun and spending money. As a matter of fact, it is YOLO. And here's the funny part: it's not that you only live once. You actually only die once, but we live every day. So we have to figure out how to live, right? So have a plan, have goals, and then be mindful of those goals. So don't ever get yourself in a situation to where you've gone too far to the left or too far to the right. You just try to stay within those parameters, but enjoy this thing we call life. Enjoy this creation. See the world. There's absolutely nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with having nice things, having nice toys, nice cars. But the problem will be if you're spending all of your money to get those things. In the end, psychologically, you're gonna feel struggle. You're gonna be struggling, and you don't want to be in that situation. So have a plan. Build it up, take your 15 cent, build it up to $1. And then once you get that $1, maybe go spend 50 cent. And then you still got 50 cent. And then take that 50 cent and you keep investing. So you just kind of have a plan and you're aware of it. And then you start to reach your goals.
First of all, I'm really happy also. I kind of hopped over it earlier, but I'm happy that you tied in the Bible because, and again, my listeners and viewers, will probably have varying religious beliefs, but I'm happy that you tied in the Bible for the primary reason to show that being financially sound dates back to a long, long time ago. It isn't something that was just made up today, right? We have a biblical foundation to kind of help us understand what it means to invest and how to invest. One of the things as I continue to read and I learn and I grow and things like that, we hear those financial terms. We hear financial terms like assets and liabilities. Can you just give us a quick crash course on what an asset and a liability is?
Yeah, no, good question. And but before I make that point, but like you mentioned the Bible, but I'll tell you another book that really set me afire, and it's not biblical, but it comes across as a great story. It's called The Richest Man in Babylon. You've heard of that book?
I have not.
Man, that's a great book. The Richest Man in Babylon. There's several books out there, and The Richest Man in Babylon is a really simple book, but the stories and the points that he made within that book are phenomenal. It's a principle based book. So and even though it's not biblical, again, it comes across almost like it's a story from the Bible or the story almost from the Quran in a sense. So it's a really, really good book. But to answer your question, assets are, I would say, items that appreciate. Right? You can have assets are going to be an item that's appreciating. It could be a house, where your house could be appreciating. But and this is a good point. A house is an asset because it appreciates, but a house is also a liability if you still own that house. Because so a liability is a debt that you owe, right? Something that you're paying on. You're liable for it, meaning that you're responsible for making payments on it. Somebody either borrowed you the money, loaned you the money, so you got to pay that money back. And an asset is an item that you can invest in, but there's so many different things that could be assets. And typically when you have working professionals, that's going to be stocks, mutual funds. I remember my dad, before I got off into this business, he would buy a lot of government bonds because that's what he thought was one way of getting an appreciating asset. But he didn't realize that thing was only getting like 0.5% or whatever, right? So, that wasn't really a great asset used for that money. So my first foray into financial gain for myself is I took savings bonds that my dad had purchased for me. I took about $1,000 of savings bond, converted it, and then I went and bought a mutual fund, a growth and income mutual fund from a company. And then and that was in like maybe the 10th grade of high school, 9th to 10th grade of high school. And by the time I got to college, that one-time investment had grown to like maybe $13,000. And me and my mom, we could talk about that story today. And here's the point. We didn't add any more money to it. We should have. I could have been rich. But we didn't understand. We didn't know what we was doing. I did that because I had a teacher in the business class when I was in high school. He talked about it and he gave us a challenge. And that challenge sort of became the catalyst for me wanting to know more about how this stuff works.
Very good. So you were even looking back. You can look back right now and go, well, I did okay. I had a good start. I learned this stuff early, but I could have done better.
So many mistakes.
Right.
Still making mistakes.
Exactly. And so I appreciate that transparency, right? Because people call themselves or other people call other people SMEs or subject matter experts in certain things. And I highlighted you as, from my perspective, as being a financial expert, but you're able to also say you made some mistakes that you learned from and you're still making mistakes and learning today. And that actually validates what you said about the continual learning, right? You've traveled down a road or down a path that you're trying to say, hey, back there about a half a mile down the road, there's a big boulder. You might want to watch out for that boulder. Well, you can say that because you've already traveled that path, right? And I think that's awesome. So with that, moving on to another term, you hear people always say, man, I'm just trying to make money while I'm asleep. I'm just trying to make money while I'm asleep. To me, I call that residual income. And I think that based on my research, that is an accurate word to describe that. It is nice to just go to sleep at night, passive income, and go, you know what, I'm not out here punching the clock all the time to make my money and living check to check. And by the way, if I have to clock out and go spend some time with my family or go to a soccer game, well, I'm not making money right now. If you can have some passive income or residual income, I think that is a plus for you because your money's working for you and you're not working for the money. On that note, we talked about investments earlier. If you had to advise folks with regard to investing, would it be something in particular that you would push them toward? Would it be stocks? Would it be real estate? Would it be just your plain old savings account? Or would it just be a diversification across the board?
Yeah. Number one of the tools and resources that people have at their disposal is most of our peers and colleagues are going to have a 401k, right? Or 403b. So what I would say is spend time, maybe get with a person like myself who can help you put a plan and understand how that works. So that, again, my neighbor this morning, I just asked her a point blank question. Hey, what rate of return are you getting on your 401k? She's like, what do you mean? Right. So spend time right there understanding that resource, because that resource right there, it could be your super savings account, right? But that's just a starting point. So I wouldn't necessarily, and I'm not going to do that in the conversation here today, push people towards any particular thing. But I can tell you this: that don't get caught up on past results and thinking that past results are going to be indicative of future results. But have a wide range, a diversification, as you stated, of those things, and diversification of your understanding. Right? Don't do anything, or a lot of times we can learn from our experiences, right? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So you get like one of the things I really want to do, hopefully maybe this holiday season, as opposed to parents buying their kids toys, I want them to buy them a mutual fund. Buy them a gift. I mean, man, I've been thinking about this kind of thing for a while. Hopefully, I didn't say that too loud.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Stuff like that is things that I want to be able to introduce to folks to say, hey, if we want different results, we're going to have to do different things, and we're going to think about things a little bit differently. So, so nothing in particular, but increase your understanding. Like we talked about Rich Dad Poor Dad book, and that has the cash flow quadrant in that book, right? And so when you're saying going from employee to being self-employed to being a business owner to being an investor, right? That's his cash flow quadrant. And he actually has a game which is really good that is similar to Monopoly that I play with young folks to help them kind of understand some different terminology, different principles. And the name of the game is called cash flow. So get a game like that to increase your knowledge. So increase the knowledge. Get a book. There's another book that I really love that I refer to clients. It's called Retire Inspired by Chris Hogan. He's a guy who's a Dave Ramsey disciple of Dave Ramsey, and his book is really good. It is really put things in layman's terms, really good examples, like about with stocks, like going to the grocery store, right? You go to the grocery store, you can have seven types of ketchup. How do you choose the one that you're getting? I mean, so increase the knowledge and then use that to buy you some assets.
Love it. Love it. This is good. One of the things I took away several, first of all. I feel like a bunch of dollar signs should be going across the screen right now.
The ticket symbol.
But one of the things I took away was when you said sometimes if you want different results, you got to do different things. I will also add that sometimes you got to do things differently. And I think depending on your perspective, both of those may apply. One or the other may apply. And I bring that up to say, and this is me going off script, so to speak, which you can handle because you're an eloquent speaker and you've been doing this for a while. But what do you say to those people when it comes to, investing in a financial planner and they go, shoot, man, I can't even afford to pay for a financial planner? What do you say to those people?
Man, that is a great question. There's value. I mean, the strategies that we're able to help you implement, could be worth their weight in gold, right? Because it's funny, again, back to the neighbor. So many things happened this morning just in this little 10-minute conversation. And the thing that I was trying to get her to see a little bit differently was when we come from where we come from, we may have a scarcity mindset. But if you're able to have a plan and look at things a little bit differently and then have an abundance mindset, you don't know what doors may open up for you, right? So whatever your investment may be in the knowledge of a financial planner, but like you working with somebody like me, your knowledge is going to increase. And by the time we finished talking, she was just like, "Oh my God, this is really good." And that doesn't still necessarily mean that people hold on tight to their money, things that they, so the value proposition has to be there for you. But I would say interview somebody, talk with somebody. The value could be there. And what you don't know, we can help to increase that pie of what you now are aware of. You still may not completely understand everything, but your awareness has now increased. As we call it in the military, what, situational awareness? And if you have that situational awareness, you're able to make different decisions, better data-driven decisions. So I think that's what I do. So I believe that the value is there, and I have clients to show that.
I like it. I think what I just heard you say to those people that say I can't afford to pay for a financial manager is, well, you can't afford not to. That's what I just heard you say. That's what I just heard you say. Yeah, no. I think that is exactly what I hear. You can't afford not to, right? Because for some people, it can be a cultural thing, because people work so hard to get what they've got. And it's very difficult to convince people to entrust what they work so hard for to someone else, saying, hey, I'm going to make it and turn it into more. And so I appreciate you coming on here, because you can help paint that picture to those folks that may be afraid to invest in a financial manager by saying, hey, well, you really can't afford not to, right?
Man, that is a great question that you asked there, because you're right. The value, even like, think about this, the conversation we're having right now. Right. The value of the conversation, could pay dividends for years upon years to come. So, give it a shot.
Absolutely.
If you have a doctor, right, and doctors get paid whatever amount of money they get paid, there's no question about that. If you have maintenance or mechanic, so the knowledge is there and the value is there. So I love what you said. You can't afford not to.
I love it. That's good stuff. And for the sake of not putting you in a position to give away free advice that you would otherwise be paid for, I do want to ask, just for the general audience, just theoretically, how much money should a person put away each month or each week or whatever frequency you think they should? What is there a percentage? How much should someone look to try to do?
Man, no, that should be general knowledge right there. That's why I'm here, to talk about that stuff. So biblically, right, we talk about tithing, 10%. That's the starting point. And and it's funny, because one of the points I may eventually try to make is that tithing and giving 10% is actually to yourself too, right? So, because back to being a good steward of the resources that we've been, given from the Creator, right? So being a good steward, a part of that, just like the parable of the talents, and there's other parables, would be, how are you being a good steward of the money that you have? How are you being a good steward? So yes, saving 10% of whatever you have. That's a mathematical way, but I like to try to make it even simpler. And I call it financial consciousness. And once you become more financial conscious, you need to just have a saver's mentality, right? And your saver's mentality can apply to across the board, whether that's your 401k. And something that you said, Sam, when we talk about the $1.15, you say, hey, if I got 15 cents, I'm only going to go spend 10 cents of this 15, because that's the only thing I got right now. That's being more financially conscious about the resources that you have, so that you're able to save. Because one of the goals that you should have is to have an emergency plan and have a savings. And if your savings is not at least 6 months of your monthly living expenses, then you still got some work to do. But I've heard that a little bit differently. I've heard things like, well, you're wealthy when you have enough savings that you can live 12 to 24 months. That's wealth.
You got me pausing now, because I was going through my bank account in my mind, and I'm like, well, let me make sure I do that math, make sure I can do that. No, that's really good. That's really good. And some of us are doing that individually. Some of us have a life partner that we're doing that with, which can be a pro. It could also be a con. Right. I tell people all the time that I'm actually married to two people. I'm married to my lovely bride, Tish, but sometimes she turns into her alter ego budget. And so sometimes when we're having a conversation, I go, "What? Who am I talking to right now? Am I talking to Tisha? Or am I talking to budget?" You know what I mean? And so she has to wear those two hats. And I'm like, "Hey, listen, we ain't inviting budget on this trip. You know, she's staying at home." So it can bring about a little bit of conflict, if you will, healthy conflict. So do you have any advice for those couples out there that may have different financial philosophies? Maybe one of them is a spender, YOLO, we're going to spend it all. And the other one's just like, I don't want to eat today because I'm trying to save, money. And it's like two different ends of the spectrum. What advice do you offer to those couples?
Yeah, no. Here, let me make this point in general. In general, I found that women typically are better savers. They have a better savers mentality than guys. I mean, guys are typically more, I'm on a hustle, I'm on a grind. So until I hit that one thing that's gonna make me this money, I'm trying to find it. So, so guys tend to not have a saver's mentality. And women, especially older generation women, man, they have savings and they got all kind of CDs and all kind of stuff. You're like, man, and they still be like, oh, I'm not doing good. I'm like, well, you're blessed. You're doing really good. So you got that. Now, that may not be the case. That could be generational, right? So maybe younger women are a little bit more spenders, and guys too. So to your point, there's another book called Financial Lovemaking, right? And it kind of talks about, in the same way that you develop your relationship with your spouse, and money being one of those very, very important foundational things in a relationship, you need to talk about your financial lovemaking, right? And try to come to some type of balance because, and the one thing that I would advise people is that think about it psychologically. Because a lot of times people may think about it materially or they may think about a number for dollars. But what I found is that no one likes to struggle psychologically, no matter. So whatever amount it takes for you to feel like you're not struggling, that's what a couple could focus on, right? And a baby, we got enough savings here for an emergency, this, that, back to that 6-month goal I talked about. Then you're gonna achieve what I call more financial peace.
I'm learning a lot. You should see my sticky notes here. I'm taking all these notes, even though I know I could watch this back later and just take notes later. I'm like writing them down while I'm active, because it's a lot of knowledge bombs. And so what just came to my mind just then hearing you talk, because you talked about generational things. We've talked about cultural things. And I hear 3 different avenues, if you will. Some people try to make sure they don't lose money. Some people try to make sure they keep their money, and some people try to make money. And the reason I brought those 3 things up is because I remember growing up, people hiding money under their mattress, and stuff like that, because they were just trying to keep their money and they didn't want to lose their money. Some people just say, I'm going to keep it in a savings account. But I think we all know that the amount of interest you gain from just letting your money sit there, it doesn't really get you where you want to be when it turns out to be trying to gain money. And so I think you're right. It's a generational thing. It's a cultural thing, and it's just different philosophies. And so then the last advice question I want to ask you, based on, foundationally, the not lose money, the keep money or gain money. Some people are just like, man, I'm just trying to get out of debt. If you had to just tell someone like briefly on the elevator and someone says, man, I'm in debt. How do I get out of debt? Like, what would you tell them?
Yeah. What I would tell them is stop spending.
You got to stop the leak. Stop the leak.
Stop the bleeding. Right. That's the first thing. You got to shift your mentality. You have to stop spending. You got to cut back. You're gonna have to make some sacrifices. Back when we grew up, it's funny. Kool-Aid was real cheap. Kool-Aid was cheaper than juice. That
is a fact. That is a fact.
Right?
Kool-Aid was way cheaper than juice.
Kool-Aid way cheaper than juice. Just water and sugar, But so stop spending. That's one thing. And then the second part to that is You know, and Robert Kiyosaki does a good job in his book, because one of the things he started to do was that he did try to figure out how to make more money, right? So he got into the real estate game, right? So you may have to do some things to figure out how to increase your revenue, increase your money, so that you can pay the debt off a little bit faster, right? That's another point. And then that third and final point is pay your debts off, right? So stop spending, turn on that financial consciousness, and then start to pay the debts off. So it's almost like if I got on the scale, and if I wanted to lose weight, right, and if I go weigh myself right now and I'm 215, and then I go for a run, I go exercise, and now I'm down to 213, I've just lost those 2 pounds. So you have to become aware of, are you knocking the debt down, and then have a timeline and a goal to just pay the debt off. So those are the three things. You know, stop the bleeding, stop the leaking, as you say, right? Maybe figure out a way of increasing your money, your intake, so that you can pay the debts off faster, make money. And then number three, become financially conscious, and then just pay the debts off. And if they're slowly but surely, you have to pay more than the minimum, then you just have to start to pay the debts off.
I love it. I love it. I took a lot from you today, and I hope that the audience members did as well. I've got some people that are going to probably be mad at you. That's in my family, and it's okay. But one thing I'm going to implement, I'm not buying y'all gifts anymore. My grown kids, I'm buying y'all mutual funds or some kind of thing to invest in. The little nephews and nieces, I ain't giving you no more toys. I'm giving you something that's going to last you for a lifetime. That stuck with me. I'm just telling you, that's going to stick with me for a while. I want to offer an opportunity right now for you. Do you have any parting advice that you want to give in addition to that, for people that may be seeking a great financial planner or advisor? Do you have any contact information that you are looking to share?
Yeah. So part of final advice is get started, right? If you want to become more financially sound, and then I looked up the definition of financially sound. It says financial stability can be defined differently for each person, but there's some common indicators of being financially secure. The signs of financial stability included having a budget, or I say financial consciousness, living below your means, saving money consistently, prioritizing debt repayment, and paying bills on time, right? So if those are the components of being financially sound, get started, right? It's funny. I say this a lot of times, but it actually is true. When is the best time to plant a tree?
Yesterday.
Right. Either 20 years ago, so you have a tree, or today. Right? Because if you don't have a tree in place now, where you need to start planting that seed, digging that ground, tilling that soil, and planting that seed today, so that 20 years from now, you can have a tree or a bush or something, right? So get started. Don't get overwhelmed. Read a book or two. And then and thanks, Sims, for allowing me to share. And if you wanna contact me, the best way to reach out and contact me is through my currently right now through my tax business, which is Tax Time Solutions. And that's at www.taxtimesolutions with an S.biz. Again, that's Tax Time Solutions with an S.biz. I have several preparers that are working with me in the tax business that I've had now for a number of years. So all our contact information is there on that website. And then my name is Marcus Smith. Look me up, or reach out to my good friend here, Mr. Sims with Sensation Nation, and I'm sure that he will get me in contact with you all. I'm very passionate about this, and I told you a little bit about my story and why I got involved, and even though engineering and all those things, but this is where I'm really passionate, because I want to be able to help people where they are. And I've just realized in not only in my own life, but in others' lives, that we put so much value on money, right? And as I work on that workshop I told you about, sort of like what the Bible says about money, the Bible realizes that. And it also says that people say it's the love of money that is the sin. It's not the fact of having the money.
There you go.
Resource, because if you look at a lot of those characters in the Bible, starting with Abraham was wealthy.
That's right.
So we're not built to struggle. We're not built to have fear. So get over the fears, get started, and start to reduce the struggle, so that you, your family, and your generations to come, just like Abraham, right, can start to reap the benefits from the choices that you make today. So thank you for your time. I'm enjoying this.
Very, very, very good. Very good. This is pretty awesome. Before we started recording, Marcus Smith mentioned that he had not yet had the opportunity because he's so busy advising people on how to be financially sound. He hasn't had the opportunity to see some of the previous episodes. So he does not know what's coming next. And some people that I recorded with, they know what's coming next, but they don't know exactly the details. So what's coming next is a quick game of what do you prefer? It is a 10-question speed round that I'm going to ask you of what you prefer. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
And the first question is perfect based on the conversation we've been having today.
Okay.
Number 1, would you rather win the lottery or land your dream job?
Win the lottery.
Win the lottery. Number 2, test the waters or dive in the deep end?
Test the waters.
Test the waters. Number 3, glass half full or glass half empty?
Always half full. Actually, 3/4 full, but yes.
I like it. Number 4, condiments, ketchup or ranch?
Ketchup.
Ketchup it is. Number 5, I think I know the answer to this one. Number 5, night or morning?
Morning.
Early bird gets the worm. Number 6, passenger or driver?
Depends on what we're driving. Man, because driving something nice and sleek and exotic, woo, that's fine. I can take either on that.
Okay, all right. Number 7, city or countryside?
Ooh, I like them both. But I would probably say I tend to like the city more, but I love the countryside, the peace, the beauty, the aesthetics of the countryside. But I probably like the city more. The
Absolutely. You can get a little bit of both in the great state of Georgia for sure.
Yeah.
Number 8, would you rather lose sleep or skip a meal?
Ooh. Man, that's a tough one. Lose sleep or skip a meal. So I would say I would rather skip a meal.
Okay, that is a harder one, I will tell you. Number 9, again, kind of ties into our subject today. Do you prefer shopping online or shopping in the store?
Online, all day.
Find
Amazon,
the best deals.
Instacart.
Save time because time is money.
Right.
Last but not least, would you rather start work late or leave work early?
Start work late or leave work early.
Yep, go to work late or leave early.
I would probably rather start work late because I like to work out in the mornings and I like to have flexibility to get there when I get there. I get there. But I'm working.
Very good. Listen, that is pretty much the end of our show today, Marcus Smith. I want to say, first of all, thank you for playing with the game of what do you prefer, but more importantly, thank you for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom to the audience today on how to become more financially sound. I am confident that, as you mentioned about planting trees, that you have planted some trees today that you will never see the fruit from because this is something that can be replayed and will help people for some time to come, and they will help their kids, and hopefully we can break some of these generational curses when it comes to financial illiteracy, if you will.
Yeah, or struggle.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, from the bottom of my heart here on Sensation Nation, I really want to say thank you for coming on.
Oh man, thank you, my brother, man, and thank you for your patience and continually to get me on here. And if there's anything else, I'm here for you. And when I come up that way, I'm gonna definitely reach out.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. I hope you learned something today. Until next time, where you work on trying to make your dollar out of 15 cents, we'll see you on Sensation Nation.
Yes. Peace.